So some of my clients at Black Sheep said, Jeff, you need an audio podcast, but Jeff Black loves to be on camera, so I created a TV show called Business Casual, where we talk to business leaders around the world on a variety of leadership topics. Make sure you watch Business Casual with Jeff Black. Welcome to this edition of Business Casual with Jeff Black. I'm joined by Steve Rudderham. He is the head of global business services for AkzoNobel in Amsterdam. And Steve, we are so thankful that you are here on our show today. How are you doing?
What on earth are you wearing, Jeff? Is that Photoshop or are the thrift shops open again? What are we really going to do the interview in that?
It's a beautiful plaid jacket with a solid red vest. I thought this would look good. Is this not part of business or casual?
Good on your granddad, maybe, but yeah, no. I think we're going to have to stop this and start again, Jeff, because I can't concentrate with that.
Hashtag hurtful, Steve Rudderham. Okay, I'll be right back. I'm going to change. This is so unfair. So very unfair. I'll be right back. Maybe this will be better. We'll see what he says about this. I've really thought a lot of effort into what I would be putting on. How is this, Steve?
Way too wrong.
No. Well, it was the abuse that I expected to get from my good friend at AkzoNobel, Steve Rudderham. Steve, thank you so much for being a part of Business Casual. I must say, as much as I hate to admit it, that you do look very dapper here.
Well, that did cost a lot of money around the cheeks, but thank you, Jeff. On you too.
I knew that was the case. Now, I got some questions I want to ask you as part of our Business Casual show. And let me start with this one, if I may. What, if you would share with us, what's one of the most valuable things you've learned in your career? And could you also tell us what was probably the least valuable thing you learned in your career?
I think for me, probably one of the most valuable is learn how to be a good communicator. If you think of all the great leaders out there, nobody makes a bad job of it. So learn how to, apart from attending a Jeff Black seminar, of course, but
no commercial endorsement applied or endorsed. Continue on.
Okay, thank you. But no, just learn how to be a good communicator, learn how to share your vision and get people motivated and behind your ideas. I think is one of the early things I was taught, and I've really kept that as I've gone through my career.
How about, was there something that maybe somebody shared with you that you really didn't find to be that valuable?
I did think about that, but I've probably forgot about it. So nothing kind of sprung to mind that was at least valuable. I do think that there's learnings at every opportunity. So I certainly wouldn't put anything down at a low value of learning. Just keep learning every day.
Steve, we hear all the time about executive presence, that people need to have executive presence to climb a corporate ladder. How would you define executive presence? What does that mean to you?
For me, it's how do you inspire confidence in people, not only in your teams, but really when you walk into a room, are people going to trust what's coming out your mouth? Is it going to inspire confidence in them? So all around that confidence aspect for me.
And what about we hear all the time, gravitas and all that, but ultimately people need to be authentic, right? It comes in different forms, this executive presence that we call it.
Yeah, absolutely. Just be yourself. Don't try to be something else. If you do have a sense of humor, yes, leverage it. But if you don't try and force it, because people will see straight through it straight away.
Let's see if they now see straight through his with this question that we're going to ask. So, Steve, how would you rate your executive presence on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the lowest, 10 being the highest? Now, modesty has never been one of your qualities. Let's see how it comes through now. How would you rate your executive presence?
I was trying to kind of cap. I'll go for an 8.
An 8. Yes. Very good. What do you think it would take you to get to a 10? Certainly it's obtainable. How would you, in your career, move from an 8 to a 10, Steve?
I need a catchy name like a Jeff Black, or maybe that Hawaiian shirt will get me there.
Well, and it might be the great Hawaiian necklace. That might be the real That might be the differentiator, the 2 points, right?
The shells would definitely help.
They would.
Yeah.
Steve, what advice would you give to someone who is young in their career? What would you suggest they do to really help them continue that right to climb?
Yeah.
If that's what they choose to do, right?
Yeah, I think for me, one of my biggest career leaps was I was asked to go and run an operations in India, of all places. And for me, it's about taking that road less traveled. Take that little bit of risk, do the projects that other people may not be stepping up to, and that gets you the visibility. So for me, the road less traveled, just take a swing.
I know you from your days at GE. That's where we met many years ago. They used to reference the pie model, right? Performance, image, exposure.
Indeed.
How critical do you think that is as people are working their way up in an organization?
Yeah, and I talk about that frequently with younger people in the organization about focus on the performance to begin with, but get your image right early. What is it that you want to portray? And it's not just about what you're dressed as, but what is the image you want people to take away, that whole executive presence. Is this somebody that instills confidence on your audience?
What would you say if you were to think about someone coming in for a job interview? What do you look for when you're interviewing, Steve? What are those fundamental basics that you're looking for and that you would recommend somebody consider?
Ultimately, I'm looking for the fit in the team. You know, how is this individual going to fit into my team, into the organization? You know, generally they will have the competencies and the subject matter expertise, but is there a good fit there with the personality, that type of thing? So it's all about setting that person up for success. Will they be able to succeed in the culture that's within the team and within the organization?
And when we think about culture, Steve, you know, we hear a lot about corporate culture and corporate speak. Do you think we've gotten to such a degree now where people have lost some of their authenticity and that maybe they need to just think about, I'm only in front of my team, let me just talk well to them and not be thinking about all of the global aspects?
I think it's a great question. And I think those that are successful are authentic to themselves and to their roles. So you see people that are very successful. There does come a time, I think, within your career, there's a ceiling there, that if you're not yourself, you're not authentic, you're trying to play the political game too hard and you're relying on that, then you're going to max out. So yeah, very early on, get that brand of who you are and stick with it. Be authentic.
And certainly it is possible that brands can become damaged very quickly, sometimes in our control, sometimes not in our control. But then we have to work really to repair our brand. Steve, can you think about a time in your career where maybe a project didn't go as well and you really had to recover from that? What did you do to get your brand back on track?
For me, it's all about transparency, is stand up, take ownership, face into the problem, and share with people what it is. Communicate well on it. And if you put that action plan in place and say, this is what I'm going to do to turn the situation around, that builds up the trust. Then obviously, as and when you then execute on it, you can get so much more back and even more kind of credibility and more added to your brand than maybe you had before anyway.
Do you believe if done correctly, people can restore their brands and really get that second chance?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Tell us, Steve, how as important is, your appearance, professional appearance? Now, granted, I knew that you might not think this was appropriate, but the show is called Business Casual. You look like Mr. Business. I look like very cool and casual and confident and 20 years younger than what I really am. So how important is professional appearance, wardrobe, all of those things?
Yeah, it's back to me to that. What is your brand? What is your, we spoke about executive presence, and it's the words coming out of your mouth as well. For me, I've probably grown up in an era that is not with the millennials or the generation X and Y, etc. So even during this lockdown period with COVID, I've been coming into the office because it's only half a mile away from the house. And there's probably been about a dozen of us in here. I have worn a suit every single day. And my girlfriend asked, why are you wearing a suit every day? Why not put on a pair of jeans? And for me, it gives me a mindset. I get up in the morning, I cycle into work, I've got the suit on, I'm ready. It instills that confidence in me, and it gets my mind ready, for work and for the day. So, for me personally, it's important to me personally to have, that image and be dressed for success.
Welcome back to Business Casual. We are talking to Trev Rudderham. He is the father of Steve Rudderham, and I know he's got a lot of good stuff to tell us, and also a lot of dirt as well. Trev, you shake your head. Did Steve tell you that you were not allowed to say anything negatively about him? Go ahead and tell the truth right now.
Well, yes, he did say that I've got to behave myself, and I mustn't say anything negative.
Oh, do not believe any of that. Now, I want you to know, Trev, I wore a vest. I wanted to, since you're in Lincoln, 120 miles north of London, I wanted to look a little British, so I have this dapper charcoal gray vest on. I bought it from a very expensive designer store called Walmart Grand United Kingdom.
Oh, I know it well.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Well, Trev, tell us, what was Steve like growing up? Because I know he still today loves to talk on the telephone. Mm-hmm. I'm going to assume he probably was always a little talker on the telephone, wasn't he, Trev?
Well, not really. I can't remember if when he was born, if we even had a telephone. Remember, we go back a little bit. We're into the ancient times. We did get a telephone somewhere around about that time, 60s, 70s. He was born early 70.
Right.
But allowing children to use telephones, absolutely not. Which is probably why he speaks on it a lot these days.
Exactly. Well, something tells me that Steve probably secretly behind your back had a telephone, and he was talking to people, Trev, trying to work a deal. Because Steve Rudderham, your son, is always trying to work a deal, right?
Yes, I can believe that now. But nearly 50 years ago, he definitely did.
Now we're getting into his age. I love it. Now this is really getting good. Because, Steve pretends he's like 33, but we know that's not the case, right, Trev?
Well, I mean, it can't be. I'm only 45.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly. I love it. All right, Trev, tell me, what was Steve like as a teenager? What did he do that just drove you crazy? I'm like Dr. Jeff, Trev. I'm your therapist. Go ahead.
Well, I've got to be honest. He wasn't a great deal of bother.
Really?
Really, yeah.
I'm very surprised by that.
You will find that he's very team orientated. Whatever team he has from his junior school days, it would be football, and we used to have to take all of the team. We had a Volvo estate car, and there was no rules about seat belts in those days. So we used to take the whole team to a game after school. But that was Steve all the way through, because in his early teens, he took up cycling, and he was very, very good.
Really? So again, Steve being athletic, one must question that. One must question. But you're saying he was a great cyclist?
Yes, he on a Sunday morning when he was 14, 15, he would go out for a 100-mile cycle with the team that he raced with. He was towards the end of his school time, his normal school time. He joined the other boys together and he was the part of the national championship. They won the
Wow.
championship.
Well, Trev, do you remember a time when he was being so annoying that it was all you could not to do this to him?
No, I had a daughter for that game.
Oh, so Steve was the good child, and his sister is the one who caused you pain and suffering.
I didn't say Steve was the good child. Those are your words, I'm afraid.
Oh, yeah, okay. I know him. I can't believe he was too good.
I didn't say he was good, but he was relatively quiet.
Well, Trev, it's fair to say he's making up for it now because he is
absolutely.
anything but quiet. He's just like a non-stop little chatterbox. Trev.
Why do you think
happened?
we threw him out of England?
I see. So you banished him over to the U.S. and now we have to deal with it. But now he's even in Europe, so we had to run him out of the U.S. as well, I guess.
That's right.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, Trev, I got a question to ask you. When did you know, at what point when Steve was young, that you thought there was a great leader in the making?
When he was younger, I never did.
Really?
Yeah. I'm not particularly highly educated at all. And my father was, he couldn't read or write. But Steve was brought up in an atmosphere where I wasn't one of those parents that I was pushing him. So when what he did from his own backing.
Okay.
He had jobs from a young age. He would go out, he would work anywhere for money, money orientated, but it never bothered him. He would go out and if he wanted, I remember him having a cycle handmade, and in those days, I think it cost him about £1,000.
Wow, that was a lot of money.
But he paid for it. He went out, he worked, and he paid for it. And while he was at university, he used to come home every weekend and work at one of the local stores to get the money.
Wow.
He was very good like that, I've got to say that. And tell him he can pay me later.
You're really saying that Steve, at a young age, had potential. He had potential. And you and your wife just molded him.
You can say that.
Heard it here first on Business Casual, right?
It's
wow.
One of those things that I couldn't recognize, and I didn't recognize. And earlier on, he wasn't, to my mind, particularly academic.
He wasn't academic.
He didn't appear to be.
Well, he sure comes off sometimes as a smart person.
Oh, he is.
Yeah.
He is. But as he got older, it developed more and more. And, he's got quite a few degrees to his name now. And they don't give them out to idiots. Well,
you heard it here again. They don't give out degrees to idiots.
Yeah.
And Steve even qualified. So there you go. He got some degrees. I love it. I love it. I love it, Trev. Hey, thanks so much for joining me. I can't wait to talk to your son, Steve. And I hope you have a great day from the UK.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Take care.
Bye.
We'll be back with more after this. As we think about being dressed for success, and we think about a time when in your mind you were a self-described world cyclist, now, everyone, I have to let him know the bad news. I talked with your father, Trev Rudderham, and Trev shared with me that it was all in your mind that you were a great cyclist, that you were really terrible, that you never won any awards, and that he actually had to bribe the coach to give you a $2 medal just to be able to, £2, I'm so sorry, let's get the UK language correct, to be able to make you feel good about yourself. So are you just a little needy here, Steve?
I am, but I still do have that $2 medal. It's still framed. It's above the fireplace. So yeah, I'm good to go. No, I actually did a lot of cycling when I was a teenager, and for me, what was great about that it was a good social activity as well. Got a lot of friends that I still talk to through social media that are out there. And learned a lot of disciplines as well from those early days of cycling, and obviously get you fit. So no, I really enjoyed that.
So I had to try to do something to mess with you a little bit. Actually, his dad would tell me 0 dirt. He gave me nothing to use on him. I am convinced that you bribed that nice older gentleman before the interview ever happened, didn't you?
Well, as long as my mother didn't appear on the screen, then we're fine. So
no,
I'm
but
fine.
I did hear a sink running in the background. So, it was tea time in the UK, in Lincoln, UK. So I think that maybe there was tea being brewed as we were doing the interview.
It's usually either vacuuming, the dishwasher gets emptied, or tea's been made, and there'll be a shout of Trev up the stairs. So you were lucky.
I think it was the tea. Two more things to ask you about if we could. Yeah. So the first would be this. Tell us about a charity that you are involved in, Steve, that means a lot to you and why it does.
Something that's running as a charity that I have a lot of interactions with is the Airfield Centre for RAF Metheringham. It's actually a disused airfield now in the UK, but my grandfather, Bernard Swin, he was a wireless operator on Lancaster bombers during the war, flew 35 missions, and they're really keeping that memory alive with the memorials that they've got there. It's run by volunteers. So there's a lot of interaction that I have with them through social media, obviously not being local to it, but certainly every time I'm home visiting the parents, we take a drive out there and just really soak in the memories there. So great job by those guys keeping it going.
And I assume one can visit the website and make a donation or contribution to support this great effort.
Absolutely. Is this where I point to the bottom of the screen? And
good job. Keep pointing. There you go. We've just put that up. And
log on here.
Of course, Jeff Black will be making a donation in Steve's honor to this very worthwhile cause. And we encourage you to do as well. So thank you for that. Now, Steve, as our time draws near, you have spent roughly 20 or 30 minutes with Jeff Black. You started off rating your executive presence at an 8, but now that you have been with this, what do you now rate your executive presence to? What's the number now?
So are you classifying yourself as an 8, or because I'm probably a couple above? So after a Jeff Black experience, it has to be a 10.
Oh, wow. There you go. I knew you would come through. I knew it. Well, Steve, let's just be honest. Your life is enriched because of our time together.
100%, Jeff.
Exactly. You just have to tell it like it is today, right?
Yep.
No cutting corners. I have helped you greatly in your career as your coach, working with your teams. You're just a better person because of Jeff Black.
You got my bank account details, yeah?
Yeah, I do. Okay. I got the routing number. I'm off a number on, but we'll talk about that after the show. Okay. All right.
So yes, absolutely. Greatly enriched, Jeff, after this.
Okay. Thank you. Well, listen, Steve Rudderham, head of global business services for Axo Nobel, joining us for Business Casual. We'll be back soon with another exciting episode. And I might even be in another plaid jacket.